morning, everyone. This is Deb Delapiano. We're having coffee together this morning. No, this is not Prosecco hidden in a coffee cup. It is actually coffee. So, I want you to know that I had this recorded last night. And then, as is what usually happens, is something comes up and I start thinking about what I recorded. And then it becomes, I really need to redo this. So last night, after I posted that, my video was done, I get a phone call from my eldest daughter. And when she says shit like this to me, I get a little nervous. What are you doing right now, Mom? I said, well, I was just going to jump in the shower and watch a movie. She goes, could you possibly come into town and bring me a COVID test kit? And I said, are you kidding me? Are you going for 3 versions of this particular virus? As it turns out, I brought her the tests, and she tested negative. Okay, and that was her second test as a negative. Negative. So she's okay. She's got some kind of bug or flu or whatever it is, and I feel much better. But in the meantime, on the way in to Boston, I think, this is what I do in my car. I think about all this shit. I almost actually recorded this while I was driving, and I thought that was not going to be a very good idea, considering the fact that there was a lot of traffic because they were doing construction on Storrow Drive. But it gave me the impetus to come home and take a look at stuff again. And I want to talk to you about a couple things. Number one, Susan Collins is apparently a little upset that people are chalking up the front of her house with commentary about the overturn of Roe v. Wade. Well, you know what? Tough shit. It was ruled years ago that there was absolutely nothing wrong. It was a protection of First Amendment rights that was handed down by the courts, that people could stand outside the homes of abortion clinic workers and protest. So, turnabout is fair play as far as I'm concerned. And Susan Collins ought to just suck it up because, not only does she claim to be pro-choice and pro-women, but she voted handily for every single piece of shit that Donald Trump appointed to the Supreme Court. That would be Neil Gorsuch. That would be Amy Coney Barrett. That would be Mr. Kavanaugh. And you can't know the makeup of these people and expect them to be telling you the truth during, the confirmation hearings. So, to Susan Collins, shut the fuck up, okay? That's number one. Number two, the thing I'm most concerned about is that Americans, actually, let me say it flat out. The right wing knows exactly how to do what they're doing, and they're very successful. And they're successful because they never give up, okay? We got our rights in this country, women, because people my age never gave up. They didn't sit out midterms, okay? They cared about each other and they cared about their rights. It was a different time. No one's going to ever convince me that the activism today is the same activism that happened when Roe v. Wade was first sanctioned by the Supreme Court. It isn't. Now I'm reading 5 in 10 Democrats is going to sit out the midterms in punishment to the party. And I hear people on Facebook and Twitter saying we need to punish the Democrats because they should have codified Roe v. Wade 40 years ago. Wake the fuck up, people. Okay? Wake the fuck up. Okay? If legal abortion is something that can be overturned in 2022, you've got to understand that nobody, not even on either side of the party, would have voted to codify Roe v. Wade 40 years ago. Stop it, okay? Use your fucking heads. This is a problem you all have. The left is clueless. The right never sits out. That's how Donald Trump became president, because the right never sits out an election. And I'm going to suggest to you two things. Number one, they were so determined to get to this point in history that they were willing to storm the Capitol building to reinstall a despot. For months before the election, I saw banner ads across the top of my screen, and I was copying these ads. I was taking screenshots of these ads and showing them. This is our chance to return America to the Christian nation that it was. They are determined, and they are winning. And you need to get a clue. Sitting out the election is bullshit. You consider that activism, I consider it suicide. At the end of the day, it's not going to be a bloody coup that causes all of our rights to go away. In fact, I'm going to give you some statistics in a few minutes, okay? Not every fascist country is not built on a overthrow, a violent overthrow of the government like it was with Pinochet. Okay, in Turkey, they allowed these people to be elected to office, and slowly but surely over time, Erdogan has, basically erased their rights. The same thing is going on with our buddy there in Hungary. Viktor Orban, Authoritarian. Viktor Orban, who was visited not only, in theory by Tucker Carlson, but who actually went to that country to talk to that man. What does that tell you, folks? That wasn't based on news reporting, okay? He didn't go to Hungary to report the news. He went to Hungary to commiserate with people who think just like the Republicans think. The Republicans aren't overthrowing the government, they're infiltrating the government. 147 of your senators on the Republican side voted to overturn a legitimate election. They are playing within this system, and you are allowing them to win. Now, are you stunned that the codification of Roe v. Wade failed yesterday? Well, let me just tell you something. The codification of Roe v. Wade easily passed the House, and a while ago. And it passed the House because there's a big enough majority to do that. In the Senate, there is not. And in the Senate, we also have a gentleman named Joe Manchin, who turned his back on you people yet one more time. He's turned his back on his own people in West Virginia. Do you understand what the poverty rate is in West Virginia? Okay, not only did he not vote to codify Roe v. Wade, even though he claims to be pro-choice, but he also didn't vote Build Back Better, and the people in his own state are pissed. Well, if that's the case, they got to turn that anger into something like vote him the fuck out. We erroneously told you your vote doesn't matter. We admitted that. That's how it matters. Take a look at the composition of the government right now. Take a look at the extremists that are in office. Take a look at the extremists lined up to take office in 2022 and 2024. Y'all thought this was going to go away when Trump went away? Well, Trump went away, but he's not gone. He still owns the party. And by the way, he endorsed 55 candidates. All 55 candidates, the Republicans made sure they come out and voted for all of his candidates in the primaries. So far, he's 55-0. He just failed in Nevada, but that's it. Still 55, okay, of his endorsements. And there are more coming. He isn't happy in Pennsylvania with Mehmet Oz because he's not radical enough. Apparently, Mehmet Oz isn't a big enough fucking whack job for Donald Trump. Now he's got Now he's got the ringer out there. The Republicans now have the ringer out there. They have a woman who was a product of rape. And do you get what's going on here, folks? She's the product of rape. This is called public relations. They have this whole thing down, and you people on the left are sound fucking asleep planning your summer. Well, enjoy your summer, because I'm going to tell you right now, if you sit out the election, the rest of your life is going to be fucking hell. And I promise you that. Because if they win back control of the House and Senate, all bets are off. You know, Mitch McConnell is already publicly talking about a national ban on abortion going through the Senate if they win. And you know what? They've already got their plans all fucking lined up. Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Brett Kavanaugh were put there for a reason. They continually talk about the Democrats stacking the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court was stacked by the Republican Party for a purpose. Donald Trump as much as admitted it publicly in a speech in 2016. Go look. It's all there for you. He said he was going to appoint Supreme Court justices who would overturn Roe v. Wade because, in his words, someone, quote, has to pay for abortion. Really? Coming from a man who has 26 credible accusations by women against him, and you're going to let the people he endorsed win because you want to punish the Democrats. You know what? It isn't all about the politicians, folks. You are this country. This doesn't work in a vacuum. Legislators respond to the people. The people on the right speak, and they speak loudly, and their constituents are important to them, so they listen. That's how they get into office. So let me give you some numbers. In case you think this has to be a bloody coup to make this work, let me tell you what the Democrats are up to. By the way, before I start that, let me just mention two things. One, Fiona Hill, who worked for Donald Trump. Because Fiona Hill doesn't really consider herself a Democrat or Republican. She considers herself an American, and she has said this many times. So she was serving her country when she took this job, but she also got a bird's eye view of him. And she said not once did he ever put anybody in this country before his needs. She has said openly, if Donald Trump is returned to power, if the Republicans are returned to power, it's game, set, and match for democracy in America. We have scholars in Canada warning their people already that we could be under right-wing authoritarian rule by 2030. I think it's entirely possible, and I think 2022 and 2024 will be two giant steps in that direction. And you know what? If you don't think that the Republicans on a state-by-state basis are taking authoritarian rule for a ride, go take a look at Texas. Take a look at Florida. Oklahoma. Arizona. Take a good look. Now, Max Boot. Anybody know Max Boot? You know, Max Boot is a former Republican. He's an opinion columnist for the Washington Post. One of the reasons why I read the Washington Post, and one of the reasons why I read the newspapers I read, is both sides are represented. But Max Boot is now no longer a Republican. He's an independent. He has openly stated that the only way to save this democracy is to vote for Democrats. Understand what I'm saying to you. The parties are not the same. You need to wake up. So let me tell you what the Republicans have been up to. I'm going to read some of this. It's not just the Democrats that are warning you, by the way, about Trump and the people he's left behind. It's Republicans as well. There are Republicans out there who are rational. Charlie Baker, who's the governor of my state, who is not going to run again, has been against Trump from the beginning. He balked Trump. He pushed back on Trump all through the entire pandemic and did what was right for the state. but he's not going to run again, as so many rational Republicans are walking away from the party. And that literally gives the party to the extremists. So I'm not actually thinking they're doing the right thing either, but it is what it is, okay? So the problem is, if you don't pay attention to what goes on every single day, and I know you don't because you're too busy sharing memes, and memes don't tell you shit, okay? Memes are just nice little thoughts on a pretty colored piece of paper that you all believe is just absolute truth. So on May 10th, Max Boot wrote this. And I'm going to read this to you because I want everyone to hear this. These are his words. This reminds me, now they're talking about people in the United States, because the question was asked in a February CNN poll if it's likely in the next few years that some elected officials will successfully overturn the results of an election. 51% of Republicans and 44% of Democrats responded that it's not at all likely. How fucking stupid do you have to be? I mean, I don't know how fucking stupid you have to be. They had 147 people already vote to overturn an election. 147 out of 221 Republicans voted to overturn an election. Many of the Republicans who did not vote to overturn the elections are the very people leaving the party. So this is what Max Boot says. Quote, "This reminds me of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denying, before February 24th, that a Russian invasion was imminent and telling people not to panic, even as Russian armies were massing in plain sight. Panic is generally a bad idea, but sometimes it's warranted. Now is one of those times for anyone who cares about the fate of U.S. democracy. Republicans have succeeded in restricting voting rights in 19 states. Democrats have failed to protect voting rights at the national level because they can't break a Senate filibuster. You know, stand up, people, and demand that the filibuster be taken away. You know, this is all you have to do. Meanwhile, at least 23 supporters of the big lie, which holds that the 2020 election was stolen from former President Donald Trump, are running for Secretary of State posts, which, by the way, are the posts that oversee the elections, okay? They are going to have people in place in 19 states. People who are Trump acolytes running for Secretary of State positions. Get that through your head. Other election deniers are joining election boards. It's happening all across the country. We have a brand new website out there, www.factivistproject.org, where we are laying this all out for you. And you should go there because it's going to be updated every week. It's not entirely complete yet, but the picture is kind of complete. This is what Max Boot wrote in a tweet. The only way to save democracy is to vote for Democrats in the fall. And I say that as an ex-Republican turned independent. It doesn't matter if you disagree with Democrats on some items. And some issues. The overriding issue is the preservation of democracy. You are never going to have a panacea of perfect government here. You will never have that. As long as there are people involved in everything, okay? You're going to have people who are greedy, evil, whatever. It is the responsibility of the American people to watchdog their government. The people on the left who are claiming to want to sit out the midterms, if you think that's accomplishing anything but driving us further down the road of authoritarianism, you're fucking smoking crack. You need to wake up. This is about right now, we are in the panic zone. If you're not in the panic zone, you're not my age and you don't remember anything. You know, if you're taking a casual approach to people who are, you know, transgender and gay because you're not transgender and gay, and if you don't really care about voting rights being overturned because you're not black or another person of color, Latino, an immigrant, if none of that bothers you, just consider this. There were plenty of other things argued on the back of Roe v. Wade. While I fundamentally agree we could have argued Roe v. Wade based on gender equality, the fact of the matter is we didn't. The fact of the matter is we didn't. But privacy, they're making a mockery of the 14th Amendment. Privacy is very important, and this is indeed private. What you do with your body is private. It's not anyone else's business. It's not your neighbor's business. It's not your government's business. You know, people talk about government overreach. What the fuck do you think this is? This isn't government overreach. Let me just give you a couple of clues here. In several states now, Louisiana being one, they're talking about outlawing IUDs for women. They are discussing who and who cannot get contraception. They are discussing overturning gay marriage. That has been a goal of the right since the day it was codified by the Supreme Court. And all of those rights were based on privacy. When we get down to it, they'll start talking about who can cohabitate. In some states, they're talking about it now. If you're not married, you shouldn't be able to live together. What the fuck is wrong with you people? This is 2022, okay? Not 1776, although that is where the right wants to take you. I know you really don't give a shit about this. You stop voting now, and you're hurting an entire country of people because you're fucking lazy or you think that's activism. So let me give you a clue. Bitching on Facebook and Twitter means nothing. That's not going to change the landscape here. There's only one thing that's going to change the landscape. You know what? And if voting didn't matter, the right wing wouldn't go out and do it. But they know it does, because take a look at where we are. Take a good look at where we are. If you go to the website, www.factivistproject.org, you can take a look at the extremist candidates who are running. And I'm not done yet. I've only done, Arizona for the most part. And some other people who are straggling in other states. But now there are more. And you will see all of those people on that website eventually in the next month. But there are plenty there for you to look at right now and understand. Listen to their words, because I use their quotes there and I tell you what they're going after. When I tell you Mark Fincham, Mr. Conspiracy Theorist, is running for the Secretary of State in Arizona so he can control that election. It's happening everywhere. And you know what? They're putting these people in place based on election integrity. It has nothing to do with election integrity. It has everything to do with taking power. Wake up. Yes, we need to be on the streets. We're going to be out in Boston on Sunday on Roe v. Wade. Just because the Supreme Court's going to do what it's going to do doesn't mean we can sit back. We can't. And you know what? We should have been doing this last year. We're a little late on the uptake. We tried to get people out there last year as we were out there dying in the heat of the summer, and we have the videos to prove it. We couldn't get anybody interested. If you think for a minute that you're okay because you're in a safe state, think again. For example, in Boston, we have the ultimate Oreo sandwich going on. We have Charlie Baker not running again. And we have 3 people running for governor. One of them is the Democrat, Maura Healey. She's sandwiched in between 2 extremist Republicans. There's 1 woman and 1 man, and they are Donald Trump Republicans. Even in the state of Massachusetts, if you allow that to happen, your rights hang in the balance. Once they are ensconced in those positions, once you have a Republican governor, which is, by the way, was a plan of the Republican Party, and they have taken the governorships in key states over the past couple of elections. They've done that for a reason, and this is that reason. They are test driving authoritarian rule in several states. Texas, Florida, Arizona. Coming to a theater near you, folks. Ignore it at everybody's peril. Wake up.